My own mother stood at the door looking past me like I wasn't there. "We need to discuss your father's property," she said. Behind her, my siblings held manila folders and expensive briefcases. None of them had spoken to me in a decade. "Hi everyone, my name is Emma and I'm 34 years old." For the longest time, I thought family meant everything. I was the youngest of 4 kids, always trying to prove I belonged. While my siblings went to law school and medical school, I chose a different path, one they never understood or respected. I wasn't the golden child with perfect grades or a prestigious career. I was just me, the one who asked too many questions, who challenged their rules, who refused to fall in line, and for that they decided I wasn't worth their time. 10 years. That's how long they excluded me from birthdays, holidays, family dinners, everything that mattered. 10 years of silence while I built something they couldn't even imagine. If you've ever been pushed aside by your own family, subscribe right now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your story matters, and I read every single one. When that doorbell rang last month, I thought it was just another delivery, but when I saw them through the security camera, my blood ran cold. My mother, my 3 siblings, all dressed in their expensive suits. They hadn't come to apologize. They hadn't come to reconnect. They'd come because they needed something from me, and what they discovered that day would haunt them forever. It started when I was 24. Fresh out of college with a degree in environmental science, I announced at Sunday dinner that I was starting my own sustainability consulting business. Instead of joining Dad's law firm like everyone expected. "Environmental what?" My brother Marcus sneered across the table. "That's not a real job, Emma." "At least she's not wasting Dad's connections," added my sister Sarah. She didn't even look up from her phone. But it was my mother's words that cut deepest. "Emma, sweetheart, maybe it's time you faced reality. Not everyone is meant for ambitious careers." My father set down his fork. He looked at me with that disappointed expression I knew so well. "We've invested a lot in your education. This family has a reputation to maintain." "A reputation?" I stood up, my voice shaking. "What reputation is that exactly? The one where you all talk down to anyone who doesn't fit your perfect little mold?" That's when my oldest brother David spoke up, the family golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. "Maybe Mom's right. Maybe you should focus on something more realistic." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. All I saw were strangers. "Fine," I whispered. "If that's how you really feel, then I guess I don't belong here." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice. "Emma, don't be dramatic. Come back and finish dinner." But I didn't turn around, and that was the last family dinner I ever attended. What happened next wasn't just exclusion, it was erasure. Christmas came and went without an invitation. My birthday passed without a single text. When I saw photos on social media of family gatherings, I realized they'd photoshopped me out of old pictures hanging on the walls. The final blow came when Sarah got engaged. I found out through a Facebook post, along with everyone else. No phone call, no text, no invitation to the engagement party or the wedding. When I called my mother, her response was ice cold. "We thought it would be easier this way. You've made your choice, Emma." "What choice?" I demanded. "To be difficult, to reject everything this family stands for." That night, I made a promise to myself. I would prove them wrong, not for revenge, not for validation, but because I knew I was worth more than their narrow definition of success. I just had no idea how spectacularly that promise would come true. 6 months after starting my company, I landed my first major client, a tech startup wanting to go carbon neutral. It was a huge deal for someone just starting out, and foolishly, I thought my family might finally be proud. I called my mother to share the news. "That's nice, dear," she said, her voice flat. "Sarah just made partner at her firm, you know. Real accomplishments." The comparison stung, but I pushed forward. "Mom, this client could change everything for me. I'm finally building something meaningful." "Emma, when are you going to stop playing pretend and get a real job? Your father knows people who could help you, but not if you keep pursuing these hobbies." I hung up before she could say more. A year later, my business was thriving. I'd been featured in the local business journal and was speaking at a sustainability conference downtown. As fate would have it, my brother Marcus was at the same hotel for a different event. I spotted him in the lobby and approached with cautious optimism. Maybe this was my chance to rebuild our relationship. "Marcus, I didn't expect to see you here." He looked me up and down with obvious disdain. "Emma, still playing environmentalist, I see." "Actually, I'm one of the keynote speakers today. My company just signed 3 major—" "Right," he interrupted loudly, loud enough for others to hear. "Let me know when you get a real job and stop embarrassing the family." He walked away, leaving me standing there as strangers stared. The humiliation burned, but it also fueled something else: determination. The cruelest betrayal came 2 years ago. I was in the hospital after a car accident. Nothing life-threatening, but I was alone and scared. I'd listed my mother as my emergency contact, hoping that surely she would come. She never showed up. Instead, I got a text from David. "Mom said you're fine. We're at Sarah's baby shower. Family emergencies only." Lying in that hospital bed, bandaged and alone, I realized something important. I wasn't the problem. They were. But I wasn't the same broken 24-year-old anymore. While they were focused on their traditional definitions of success, I was building something revolutionary. My small sustainability consulting firm had grown into a multi-million-dollar environmental technology company. We'd developed a groundbreaking carbon capture system that major corporations were desperate to license. I'd been featured in Forbes, invited to speak at the United Nations, and had venture capitalists calling me daily. More importantly, I'd built a chosen family, a team of brilliant, passionate people who valued innovation over tradition, impact over image. When my assistant Maria asked why I never talked about my biological family, I simply said, "Some people can't see beyond their own limitations." But I kept every article, every award, every milestone achievement in a folder on my desk, not because I was waiting for their approval. I'd long since stopped needing that. I kept them because I knew that someday, somehow, the truth would find its way to them. About 6 months ago, strange things started happening. A private investigator friend mentioned someone had been asking questions about me around town. My accountant received an odd call from someone claiming to be family, trying to get information about my finances. Then came the social media activity. After years of radio silence, suddenly all my siblings were viewing my LinkedIn profile, checking my company's website. David even sent me a friend request on Facebook, which I ignored. I mentioned it to Maria over coffee. "They're fishing," she said. "Something's got their attention." I laughed it off at the time, but Maria was right. They'd finally realized that the family failure had become something they couldn't ignore. What they didn't know was that their rejection had forged me into something unbreakable. While they were playing politics at law firms and medical practices, I was revolutionizing an entire industry. My carbon capture technology had caught the attention of the biggest names in tech and energy. My company wasn't just profitable, it was purposeful. We'd prevented over 50,000 tons of carbon from entering the atmosphere. Our technology was being implemented in 12 countries. The United Nations had reached out about a global partnership. But the real secret, I'd done it all while they thought I was a failure. What they thought they knew. Emma was the family disappointment. She'd never amount to anything meaningful. Her environmental hobby was just a phase. She needed them more than they needed her. What they didn't know, my company was valued at over $50 million. I owned 5 patents in carbon capture technology. Forbes had named me one of 30 under 30 in energy. 3 Fortune 500 companies were bidding for exclusive licensing deals. The beautiful irony? While they were focused on keeping up appearances in their small, prestigious circles, I was actually changing the world. I had a team of 47 employees, offices in 3 cities, and had just been offered a $200 million acquisition deal that I'd turned down because I wasn't ready to stop growing. More importantly, I'd kept receipts, not just financial records, but documented proof of every slight, every exclusion, every moment they'd made me feel like I wasn't enough. Screenshots of social media posts from family gatherings I wasn't invited to, email threads where they discussed family business and deliberately left me out. Even a recording from David's wedding where the DJ announced all family members to the dance floor while I watched from the parking lot, uninvited. They thought I'd stayed quiet because I was ashamed. In reality, I'd stayed quiet because I was busy becoming everything they said I could never be. The irony wasn't lost on me that my real family was the one I'd built myself. Maria, my assistant and best friend, had been with me since the beginning. She was the one who celebrated every milestone when my biological family wouldn't. When I won the Environmental Innovation Award, she was the one who popped champagne in the office. "You know they're gonna come crawling back eventually," she'd warned me months earlier, after noticing the uptick in social media stalking. "People like them always do when they smell money." Then there was James, my business partner and the closest thing I had to a brother, a brilliant engineer who'd believed in my vision when everyone else thought it was impossible. "Emma," he said during one of our late-night strategy sessions, "you've built something incredible here. Don't let them take credit for who you've become." Meanwhile, through the grapevine, I learned that things weren't going as well for the Golden Children as they'd projected. Marcus's law firm was facing a major lawsuit. Sarah's medical practice was struggling with debt. David's real estate investments had taken a hit during the market downturn. But the real catalyst was Dad's health scare. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd known our family for years, let slip that my father had been in and out of the hospital. Your mother looked so stressed at the grocery store, she mentioned casually. All that talk about medical bills and estate planning. That's when the family's amateur detective work intensified. My company's receptionist mentioned that someone claiming to be my sister had called asking about Emma's schedule for a family emergency. Our security team flagged unusual activity around our office building, cars with occupants just sitting and watching. Most telling was the call from my college roommate Jenny. Emma, your brother David found me on LinkedIn and asked all these weird questions about your business. What's going on? But here's what made me laugh. They were being so obvious about it. Sarah started liking old posts on my company's Instagram account from 3 years ago. Marcus sent a generic LinkedIn message, "Hey sis, long time no talk. Proud of what you've accomplished." The desperation was palpable, but so was their arrogance. They still thought I was the same insecure girl who'd begged for their approval. They had no idea that rejection had been the best gift they'd ever given me. "They're coming," James observed during our weekly board meeting. "The question is, are you ready?" I pulled out a thick folder from my desk. Years of documentation, achievement records, and most importantly, evidence of every single exclusion and cruel comment. "I've been ready for 10 years, I replied. What I didn't tell him was that I'd also installed a state-of-the-art security system with recording capabilities throughout my house. When they finally made their move, every word would be documented. The last text message I received from my mother before they showed up said simply, "We need to talk. It's about family." I almost laughed out loud. Now they wanted to talk about family. The doorbell rang on a Tuesday morning at exactly 9 a.m. Through my security cameras, I watched them arrange themselves like they were posing for a family portrait, all 4 of them in expensive business attire, briefcases in hand. I let them wait for a full minute before opening the door. "Emma." My mother's voice was carefully controlled, the way she spoke to clients at the bank. "We need to discuss some urgent family matters." "Family matters?" I kept my voice neutral though my heart was pounding. That's interesting considering I haven't been family for 10 years. David stepped forward, flashing that practiced lawyer smile. "Emma, we know things got complicated, but we're here to make things right." I gestured them into my living room. The one with original artwork on every wall, handcrafted furniture, obvious signs of success they couldn't ignore. I watched their eyes take in the space, trying to reconcile it with their image of me as a failure. Marcus, never one for subtlety, cut straight to the point. "Dad's medical bills are substantial. We're restructuring some family assets, and we need everyone to contribute proportionally." "Proportionally?" I asked. Sarah leaned forward, her voice taking on that condescending tone I remembered so well. "Emma, we know your little business has done adequately. We're not asking for charity, we're asking for family responsibility." I almost smiled. Even now, even sitting in my multi-million-dollar home, they couldn't acknowledge what I'd actually achieved. "And exactly how much is my proportional share?" I asked. David slid a folder across my coffee table. "We've calculated about $200,000 should cover it. Spread over time, of course. We're not unreasonable." I opened the folder and laughed, actually laughed out loud. Their financial analysis of my company was so wildly inaccurate it was almost insulting. "This is what you think my business is worth?" I held up their amateur assessment. "Emma," my mother said sharply, "this isn't a negotiation, this is family obligation." That word, obligation, triggered something in me. "Obligation?" I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out my own folder. "Let's talk about obligations." I spread out the photographs first. "This is Sarah's engagement party. This is Marcus's graduation. This is David's wedding. This is Christmas 2019, 2020, 2021, 2023. Notice anyone missing?" Their faces began to change as the reality hit them. "And this," I continued, pulling out printed emails, "is the thread where you all discussed family Christmas gifts and specifically decided I didn't qualify for consideration. But here's my favorite part," I said, my voice getting stronger. "While you were all playing these games, dismissing my little hobby business, I was building this." I pulled out the Forbes article, the UN partnership announcement, the acquisition offers. Ecotech Solutions isn't a small consulting firm anymore. It's a $50 million company that holds patents for technology that could help save the planet. Those environmental hobbies you mocked? They just landed a contract with the European Union. Marcus's face had gone pale. "Emma, we didn't know." "Oh, but you did know," I interrupted. "You knew enough to have me investigated. You knew enough to send David to charm my college friends for information. You knew enough to suddenly start following all my social media accounts." So here's what's really happening, I said, walking back to face them. Dad's medical bills are the least of your problems. Marcus, your firm is facing a $2 million lawsuit. Sarah, your practice is hemorrhaging money. David, your real estate portfolio is underwater. The silence was deafening. You didn't come here because you suddenly remembered I was family. You came here because you finally realized I'm the only one with the resources to save all of you. My mother opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. And the answer is no. You taught me that family is conditional, that love has to be earned, that success is measured by your standards alone. Congratulations, I learned those lessons perfectly. Emma, please, Sarah started. Please? I looked at each of them. When did I ever hear that word from any of you? When did any of you please consider my feelings? Please include me. Please treat me like family. I walked to the door and opened it. You have everything you came with, and that's everything you're leaving with. They left without another word. No apologies, no acknowledgement of what they'd done, just the same entitled silence they'd always hidden behind. Through my window, I watched them huddle by their cars, probably strategizing their next move, but I wasn't worried anymore. For the first time in 10 years, I felt completely free. Maria called an hour later. How do you feel? Honest. I looked around my home, not just the expensive furniture or awards, but the photos with my chosen family, the life I'd built entirely on my own terms. I feel like I finally understand what family really means. It's not about blood, or obligation, or meeting someone else's definition of success. It's about the people who celebrate your wins, support your dreams, and love you exactly as you are. They never called back, never apologized, never acknowledged that they'd been wrong about everything. And for the first time in my life, their silence didn't hurt me, it freed me. I never needed their approval, I just needed to remember my own worth. If you've ever had to choose between family approval and staying true to yourself, I want to hear from you. Drop your location in the comments and tell me your story. I read every single one. Sometimes the family that rejects you is making room for the family that will truly love you. Your worth isn't determined by people who can't see your value. Subscribe if you believe that, and hit that notification bell because your story deserves to be heard. Thank you for watching, and remember, the best revenge is becoming everything they said you could never be.